Good morning, Dan and Amy. So the United Van Line's annual study of migratory patterns of Americans is out. And Illinois comes in
Yes.
tied for number one with New Jersey. We're number one.
We are number one. Woo!
63% of movers out leaving Illinois, 37% coming in. That's tied with New Jersey.
And what do we have in common with New Jersey?
Terrible public policy and a very high cost of living for limited return on said high cost. It's worse than that. By the way, Illinois has been in the top 5 states for out-migration for the last 8 years.
Wow.
For 5 of the last 8 years. 5 of the last 8 years. An exodus not seen since the Israelites fled Egypt. That's what's happening in Illinois, but it's worse than that. Because from some research done by Michael Lucci over at the Illinois Policy Institute, for the tax year 2014, the most recent year of data, the average income of people leaving Illinois, $77,000. The average income of people entering Illinois, $57,000. That income differential of $20,000 between out-migrants and in-migrants is the worst in the United States. Successful people, upwardly mobile people, fleeing the state. I've mentioned this before, Granite Institute study of Illinois. You think, oh, this is just seniors retiring to live out their golden years in a warm climate. No. Number one group by percentage leaving Illinois, millennials. Why? Because they can't get jobs here. And because we're number one, or we're right there with New Jersey, 1, 2, in the out-migration of college-bound high school seniors. They're going to college out of state. And what happens when kids go to college out of state? Oftentimes they stay out of state, and they're certainly not coming back to a state that doesn't have job opportunities in their chosen field of endeavor. Wake up, Illinois. The second largest cohort behind millennials leaving Illinois? Seniors? No. 35 to 54. Young, upwardly mobile families thinking about their children's education, thinking about their career track, and seeing Illinois as not the place. And think about this for yourself. Think about the decision that it entails leaving a state. No, you look across the board in Indiana or Wisconsin, you say lower cost of living just a better economic environment or so, a better educational environment. So it's still not an easy decision. Sell your home, pull up roots. You may have family, friends. You've been in this state for a long time. It's not an easy thing to do, and yet it is happening at an incredible pace. And against that backdrop, we have the inanity of Senate GOP Minority Leader Christine Radogno getting buffaloed by Senate President John Cullerton, and apparently with the assent, or at least he's playing Pontius Pilate, of Governor Rauner, to raise the state income tax and corporate income tax in exchange for nothing, in exchange for window dressing, just to get something done, to get a budget done. Raising income taxes in a recession, which is what Illinois has been in for the better part of 15 years, and the out-migration is just one metric, is the worst thing you can do. How bad is it? During the income tax raise years of Pat Quinn, Illinois, again, according to Illinois Policy Institute research, lost $14 billion in state domestic product, gross adjusted income during those income tax years. We've been losing for 20 years a person in this state every 5 minutes. Shall I go on? And what's the response from Republicans in the General Assembly at the leadership level? To negotiate the terms of surrender with Chicago Democrats who've put us in this place, who've destroyed this state's economy. The country is going one direction, with the exception of the coasts and Illinois, going a completely different direction towards economic oblivion, towards a failed state. And when Rich Miller over at Capital Facts, no conservative, is talking about Illinois as a potential failed state, that tells you where we're at. And it's Chicago Democrat dominance of this state. But don't wake up in the suburbs. Don't wake up in the collar counties. Keep forcing people to flee. And when the bills come due for those people that stayed, so many of them are going to be innocent bystanders to some extent, But for the champagne socialists who love this and say, give me more, just remember all of the warnings that were issued. And one of the individuals helping people move out of Illinois is a former Illinois resident himself. He is Jeff Kirsch, who started the website with his wife, getoutofillinois.com. And he joins us now. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So give us your story because, I mean, unfortunately, I talk to people all over the state, as does Amy, and I don't think you can have a conversation with somebody in Illinois that within the first 2 minutes doesn't turn to their exit strategy. So tell us what prompted you to flee.
What prompted me to flee? Well, I mean, you know, my wife and I are some of the lucky folks who really can find work anywhere. And we were always frustrated, obviously not just with the political climate in Illinois, but, you know, the overall quality of life in the suburbs, you know. And if you're young and single, I mean, sure, you live in the city and it can be a blast. But then a lot of people I talk to, you know, you settle down, you raise a family, you move out to the suburbs. And the reality of things is that when you live in the suburbs and you're raising a family, I mean, life at best is just really boring, you know. And you know, it's miserable winters. It's too cold to be outside half the year. You know these things. Summer comes and rains half the time. You know, the thing for us, too, that really started to grate on us after a while is that there's very little natural beauty of any kind in northern Illinois, and you're totally landlocked, right? So you've got to get on a plane to get to the ocean, to see some scenery. You go to Chicago twice a year if you're lucky. And I think we just started to realize that the quality of life in Illinois is just not what it should be.
Well, Jeff, have you been to Utica, Illinois?
Go up year after year after year. You know, I think a lot of people are having this experience. You begin to look at each other and say, there's really just no good reason to live here anymore. You know, so for our story is we moved down to North Carolina in 2013, and now that I look back, I really wonder why we didn't do it earlier. And I think a lot of people who have left Illinois are starting to say the same thing because there's so many places in the country that offer so much better quality of life and at way less cost. And I think our story is not uncommon. A lot of people are starting to feel this way and starting to realize that, you know, the quality of life of Illinois overall is pretty poor. And as you see your taxes going up and the mounting fear that we don't know how high these bills are going to get. I may be able to pay my tax bill now, but will I in the future, right? And there's really only one direction the taxes can go, and that's up. And we began to realize that and to say, hey, we need to do something about this out of interest for our future.
Well, by the way,
and I would really say to the listeners the same thing, that if they're contemplating, you know, getting out of Illinois, that now is really time to do so because it's not going to get any better.
By the way,
you have to really ask yourself how much worse it's going to get.
Just a quick aside, North Carolina, number 8 in the country in migration.
Right. Well, yeah. Jeff, I don't know if you figured this out, but how much have you saved in property tax costs by moving from Illinois to North Carolina?
Well, it's dramatic. I mean, our home in the northwest suburbs was approaching 4% of property tax.
Yeah.
You know,
4% of home value.
Yeah, which is unbelievable, right? And I mean, right now we're paying about 20%, about 1/5 of that, So, and the thing is, it's not just the property taxes. That's the amazing thing. It's that. So we're in the Charlotte area. If you combine the cheaper cost of housing down here with the dramatically lower property taxes, you're looking at about 50% cheaper minimum. When you're talking similar distance, you know, from the city, the similar types of schools you'd get in the collar counties. And maybe the biggest thing, too, is that here in the South, in the Sun Belt, and this isn't just unique to North Carolina, but to really most states in the Sun Belt, we actually have property values that are increasing. And I don't know if you saw this, but Realtor.com recently just posted its 2017 housing predictions for the 100 largest metros in the United States. For 2017, Chicagoland is projected to be dead last, 100 out of 100, as far as property value appreciation. Inexcusable. I mean, Chicago is one of the few areas in the United States that has not seen property values recover to what their peaks were in 2008. And, you know, you had mentioned, Dan, about the wealth disparity in the country, in the state, between people moving out and moving in. And if you let that go unchecked, not only are you going to see in increasing measure people not being able to pay their property taxes, but people can't afford the price of the home to begin with.
That's right.
Going to put downward pressure on the increase in appreciation in your home, and you start to realize that the state is, in fact, stealing equity from folks in the form of these high property taxes.
That's exactly what's happening. That is exactly what's happening. Stealing equity. Your home is not your home. It's collateral for the government for unfunded pension liabilities and the rest of the largesse. That is precisely what's happening, and It is so pernicious, and it's stunning to me that I guess the revolt is just people leaving rather than fighting. But that's precisely what's going on. And I wonder, your website, getoutofillinois.com, I mentioned at the outset, what a difficult decision it is to decide to move. It's a big undertaking. And so what you do to facilitate people who want to follow suit and head to the Tar Heel State or elsewhere?
Well, one of the main things that we provide, and first and foremost, is we help people explore possible relocation spots. So we kind of function as advisors to help them sort through possible locations, which is a huge thing because, if you've lived in Chicago your whole life, some people have had the luxury of being able to travel and are familiar with other areas in the country, but there's a lot of people who are not. And we've had a lot of feedback from folks where people say, I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
And we just want to be able to be sounding boards for folks, to be able to help them out. How do you decide between Arizona and Texas and between Tennessee and North Carolina? And, drilling out from there, what's an area that would work for you, personally and professionally? So we do that. We provide people with comprehensive real estate services, so we can provide a listing agent for your current home in Illinois and an agent to purchase or rent, in another location. And we do this anywhere in the United States. And we've been through the relocation process from Chicago ourselves, so we really understand, I think, in a unique way, what the challenges and questions are that can arise in that process as people are thinking about getting out. So we want to be there for folks and help them through every step of the process of relocating from Illinois.
Well, I'll tell you what, I hate to recommend this to people. By the way, you'll get an email from me after the show. I hate to recommend this to people fleeing, because I'm kind of a lash to the mast guy. And I want the people who suck to leave, but I understand why people are leaving, and I don't begrudge people, charting a.
You've got to get that on a T-shirt. I want the people who
Yeah,
suck to
they
leave
should
Illinois.
Leave. They're the ones who suck. But I understand. I understand people looking for a better quality of life at a lower cost, and I don't begrudge them that. And I don't begrudge you moving to North Carolina or facilitating other people out. I mean, it's just sensible, I suppose. Jeff Kirsch, he's the co-creator of the website getoutofillinois.com. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.